masterpiece.
Yeah. Bringing back the deep memories.
The Animorphs television theme, ladies and gentlemen.
It's all in your hands.
Sean Ashmore, Boris Cabrera, Nadia Nascimento, Brooke Nevin.
I think Sean
as
Ashmore
Rachel.
is the only one
Christopher Ralph.
outside of whenever they finally bring on Axe that I've seen in anything
And anything else.
other than... Yeah.
Didn't Sean Ashmore have a twin?
Yes, he
had a
is a
twin,
twin.
right?
Yeah. And they both, I believe, played Iceman in the X-Men series
Oh, okay.
of
Yeah.
movies that they were in.
Because X-Men came out not too far... Turn my Bluetooth speaker off. Not too long after the Animorphs show. That was a 90s thing.
God, it seems so weird to think that, that was so long ago. It's been two decades now since fucking the first X-Men movies were coming out.
Yep, and they've never gotten better since... I don't know, Logan was pretty good, but none of them ever got better after those first few.
Some of the ones where they're in the past, like the ones with Quicksilver and everything, those were really cool. Some of his scenes were really dope.
X-Men is like the franchise that no matter how bad the movies get, they just keep on making them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just keep on making them. But this is not the world's only X-Men podcast. This is the world's only Animorphs podcast, coming to you guys after taking a week off, which most likely will not happen again. Did we have some issues with the original episode 3? Maybe so.
Maybe.
Of course, I'm
Not
Michael.
gonna say, but, I'm Max.
This is Max over here, guys.
Hello, guys. Welcome back.
Welcome back to episode on Book 3. Remember to follow Only Annie Pod on Instagram and follow the world's only Animorphs podcast on YouTube. So Book 3. I can tell yours is original because the inside picture cover is literally coming out.
It is falling apart, my guy. It is.
You have your yellowed pages.
Yeah, yellowed pages, little portions of the corners of the title and stuff missing. Like, it has definitely taken its fair share of wear over the years. There's even a Clue board game.
In the back of your
ad.
Animorphs original pressing of Book 3, there's a advertisement for the Clue board game.
Who killed Mr. Body with 2 Ds? Was it Mrs. Peacock in the library with the revolver? Or Professor Plum in the ballroom with the knife? If you like playing the game, you'll love solving the many mysteries. M-I-N-I, many mysteries in these great books.
I see. Okay. That's weird. You never see that again after Book 3. There's a few things about Book 3 that really are kind of unique to like early Animorphs. One is the Clue, advertisements in the back of the page. Another one is the Goosebumps advertisement I see there.
Now, see, the Goosebumps...
they weren't popular enough yet to only advertise Animorph stuff.
Right, yeah. The Goosebumps I do see recurring beyond Book 3.
Scholastic, man.
Yes. Anything that was Scholastic-based, they were still... And it seemed to really almost only ever be Goosebumps until you get, like, either the second pressings, like the one that you've got, or you get... like way later out in the series when they've already started working on some other stuff, then you finally start seeing some other advertisements besides just R.L. Stine and his plethora of Goosebumps.
You have the original pressing. As you mentioned, I have the second or third pressing, whatever it is, with a different cover. They just got way less exciting with the real pressings. That's why the first pressings are so cool, because the books morph. You have the inside cover. I'm going to take a look at yours here. You have the inside cover of Tobias. That's really cool, just like perching probably on the tree in the meadow that he found in his isolation era in this book.
Yeah, the one where he loses not only himself, but...
you see the background, that's where the Animorphs are. You see mountains.
Yeah. Look
probably
at that.
a national forest. That's a beautiful picture.
So far as we can tell.
That would be cool to have like a collage.
That's just a Bob Ross version of their...
Yeah. I put a happy little tree here.
Happy little dead tree stump.
This is the book where it's... Okay, so I found... He mentions it twice. Book 3 comes less than a month after Book 1. So the events of Book 1, 2, and 3 all happen within a couple of weeks, pretty much like one a week. So it's moving fast for these animals.
Yeah, really fast paced at the beginning. I think they're kind of trying to like make sure that everybody gets introduced before they get too deep into actual like happenings.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty good of like giving little minor reveals of the back workings for the Yeerks here and there, whilst they're doing everybody else's like background to kind of get you set up for the rest of the series.
There's some foreshadowing here and
Yeah.
there,
Tons.
about the Hork-Bajir in one case. Although in pretty much every book they describe how the Hork-Bajir were nice people, which we'll find out more about that. But like, and there's also the dynamics of the group. Like early on, around page 16 in the new pressing. I don't know about the original pressing. What's on your page 16? It's like the second page of chapter 3.
Yeah, I've got Marco is the most reluctant of the Animorphs.
Marco's the most reluctant, and then so they're still in the stage where Marco is skeptical. Yeah, Marco is the most reluctant of the Animorphs. He's the one who came up with the word, and then there's the line, Marco and I will probably never be very close. He's a typical smart aleck kind of guy, always confident. So that got me thinking, like, who do you think gets along the least well among the Animorphs group?
Like which two people don't get along?
Which two people don't get along
as well?
the most?
Honestly, in some ways, it's, I think, Marco and Tobias. I think they're kind of the most at odds because I think he kind of looks at Marco as much as he describes Marco and Jake as opposites. I think he really honestly views Marco as one of his opposites in many ways too. Because Marco's always so confident where he's never been able to be very confident because of his situation. But I think we also see the degradation of that with Marco because he's coming off of that, but then he's also now kind of falling down towards that more depressed version of himself that will kind of he'll battle with throughout the series, I think, a lot more.
Who, Marco?
Yeah, because like the death of his mom now, it's still kind of fresh in his world. It's only been the first couple years.
Right, yeah. Marco is the most emotionally complicated of the Animorphs. Tobias is the darkest. So it's almost like Marco has this outward funny side that he uses, but then with all this like tragedy underneath. And I bet you Marco doesn't want to get close to Tobias because Tobias has his own darkness happening, and then Tobias doesn't want to get really close to Marcos because maybe he's a little jealous of how he can make the tragedy like a comedy. And it seems like that their relationship never really goes anywhere, but it doesn't need to. You know, those are the two that like you don't really like. You need Cassie and Jake, and you need Rachel and Tobias, and you need like Tobias and Axe, but like Marco doesn't really need. I like his rivalry with Rachel, but like. He's kind of the lone wolf of the group in a way, I feel like.
I also kind of got that impression that Marco always was just very subtly sour towards Tobias because he actually was impressing Rachel. Like, I think Marco's always had this like very minor secret crush on Rachel because he always like gives her shit, but at the end of the day, he also always describes her as very pretty.
Right.
I mean, they all
Everybody
do,
does.
but
it's like he I think Marco's used
I think he even made a
getting-
comment at some point where he's like, if she wasn't so strong-headed,
then I'd have her. But like
Taller
Marco
than
seems
me.
like a guy who's used to getting attention from ladies. He's used to like girls fawning over him and his long dark hair and his dark eyes.
yeah,
By the way,
as Tobias describes it.
so Tobias is blonde, right? As we found out in Chris Grind's graphic novel. But in the book, he's got brown hair. And then also
On
in the
this,
TV
yeah.
show, he's got dark hair.
So
He looks the most like the actor in the TV show.
this first cover, I think that's kind of what they were looking most at. They weren't really reading as much, and they were like, "Oh, okay, that's what the guy's supposed to look like. Sweet, let's find a
they
guy
just
that
looked at
kind
the
of fits
cover.
that." Yeah,
Yeah. Tobias is blonde, ladies and gentlemen, as he describes it. Well, now he's more like red.
which
and
I mean, to be fair, I would see how people could describe the guy on this cover of the original pressing anyway as blonde-ish. He's like a dirty blonde, as I've
maybe
heard it
light
described.
brown,
Yeah.
dirty blonde. Yeah, I guess I could see that.
Yeah, I personally would call it light brown.
would
His
too.
hair looks a lot closer to the way mine did, where he's got more blonde. Mine was like bits of red.
Kind of a classic 90s haircut that Tobias has there on the cover.
Yeah.
I like this line where Tobias is talking about like
Swooped chili bowl.
swoop chili bowl, where Tobias is talking about like what he does all day, and I related it to me during quarantine. He's like, it doesn't matter. I had the sky. I didn't have anything else to do, but I had the sky. It's like during quarantine when I got laid off, I was literally just sitting around, not doing anything. Every single day was like, okay, what do we do today? There's not really anywhere to go, nothing to do, nobody to see. Let's just like kind of fly around, you know. And I feel like that's what Tobias is. All of us in quarantine.
He is, yeah. He got to honestly escape the way a lot of people wish they could escape. He's getting to now go and just like soar.
Yeah.
And kind of, he's getting to do what a lot of people I've seen are wanting to do. They want to like disappear into the void, so to speak. He kind of like, as effectively as you could without actually dying, did that. He's like, okay, I'm no longer human. I can't interact with you guys the same way. I can still interact with you if I really want to, but now I don't have to deal with all the same human dramas.
That's got to take a strain psychologically, because like the only people you associate with there's 5 of them, 4 of them, right? Marco, Jake, Cassie, Rachel. So there's 4 of them at this point, and all he does is just fly. Excuse me, straight up burp in the mic. All he does is fly around all day and like read people's watches and look at things. So he's dealing with this. You know, he's like dealing
because he doesn't
with
have a
this
cell
the whole
phone yet
time.
to read. I wonder how many text messages he reads nowadays. I wonder.
But it's like, oh, Max Wonders.
I wonder.
I got a good one. I have a good Max Wonders, even though I'm Michael coming up here in a second. But that's how he finds this gigantic mystery ripple in the sky, where it's like obviously a Yerk ship with a cloaking device, and he just kind of discovers this flying out and about, and thank God he did, because as we find out throughout the course of this book, they got a big hit against the Yerks, probably for the first time, the biggest hit against the Yerks so far in the series, you know, and it's all down to Tobias, as we find. But of course, the whole book, the Animorphs are still unsure about helping, especially Marco, but everybody. Marco says, look, these people aren't people we know. They aren't my friends or family. He shot a guilty look at Jake because of Tom. And we did everything we could for Tom, so why should I get killed for strangers? We can't stay lucky forever. Don't you people understand that? Sooner or later, we'll slip up. And there's a chapter that ends with, it's around page 28, and there's a chapter that ends with Tobias thinking, like, how long until there's only 3 of us, or 2 of us, or 1? You know, and that's kind of a foreshadow towards the end of the book. But that hugeness of the Yerk ship and the way that that Tobias describes it, it's good that he's out there doing, you know, like covert monitoring all day so he can catch stuff like that. Yeah.
They certainly wouldn't expect what looks even more like a natural bird that is staying, quote unquote, for more than 2 hours. You know. They wouldn't expect that. They would say, okay, watch it for a couple hours. If it seems to like disappear and then reappear.
But other than flying around and seeing Yerk ships, Tobias, as we find out in the intro of this book, is spending his time doing other things, namely freeing Price Cut Pauly from Dealin' Dan Hawk. Live commercial, which are live commercials a thing? It says they're recording a live commercial in the first chapter.
That's going to be my trivia. What's that guy's name?
Yeah, that's it, Dealin' Dan Hawk. Remember you talked about the fan fiction that started where it takes Dealin' Dan Hawk all the way down into the Yerk pool.
Turns him into kind of like a David of sorts. In fact, makes him pit himself against David at one point in the fanfic. They recognized the parallel that they're like, all right, we're going to make him duke it out even.
That's the thing. Tobias has heart for this hawk that's in the cage. Price Cut Pauly. That's a good trivia, too. I should have asked you.
Price Cut Pauly.
What's the other red-tailed hawk? And so he goes in there, he and Rachel kind of... I like how during the mission, Tobias is about to like start doing it, and he's about to go down and free the bird. And Rachel isn't even there yet, and she's like, I'm here, sorry, the bus was late.
Whoops.
You know, and she's
clunk, clunk, clunk.
Yeah. And just like all of it for that bird. And then that's kind of a beautiful part about this book is that Tobias is now attracted to this hawk. And
oddly, in a weird way, yeah.
In a weird way. And on page 56, he describes like seeing her again. He said, I was afraid of her because apparently female hawks are a third bigger than male hawks. Yeah. He said, maybe it was the feeling I had rising up to meet her in the sky, the feeling of recognition, the feeling of going home, the feeling that I belonged with her. So he's also dealing this whole time with like the growing hawk instincts battling his human brain, right?
Yeah.
Like there's this, he's a new being, and he's just figuring out how to adjust. And I think that's really cool. Something about like the ingrained mating nature of the two birds. Like he's kind of like drawn to her, but he doesn't really know why.
Makes me wonder if he even can mate with being borrowed DNA, Can he like that was
Max
another
Wonders.
wondering that I had. Can they now use this to repopulate animal species? Can they
Like
go
acquire a male and female of an endangered species?
Yeah, yeah. And then like, okay, so not necessarily one of them be the female. They would have to go and find hopefully a live female, but they could acquire a male hopefully before it passes.
Yeah.
If there are any left.
I bet
Which Animorph signs up for that? Who's
Mark,
the furry?
Of course. Mark is the freak of the group, obviously. But like I bet that in a morph you cannot impregnate another member of the species. I bet, because something about the DNA being different or something like that. That's just a guess. Again, I'm not an Andalite. I did not come up with this morphing technology myself, but I bet you there's something there that that prevents like a true creature from being born.
That fanfic also gave me another wondering.
Yeah.
I wonder. What in the world was the morphing cube made out of? You know, like were there electronic components and wires and sensors and stuff like that inside? Was it like solid? Was it hollow?
It's atomic level, atom sized.
Like a nuclear reactor on the inside? Just
Yes, that's more like it. There's like a what do you call it? Not spontaneous combustion, but perpetual motion.
a hadron collider on the
Yeah. There's like antimatter going on inside the morphing cube. Something that is
something to translate your material into Z space for you.
Yeah, it's like something that is in perpetual motion and some kind of nuclear fission reaction going on in there. That's my guess. I have a Max Wonders.
Wonder
Ready
it.
for this? Even though I'm
Michael Wonders.
Michael's Max Wonders. Okay, so they're all in wolf morph for the first time. Wolf morph. Say that 5 times fast.
Wolf
That's hard to say.
morph.
So Jake, of course, is the alpha male, and he's going along, and he's like peeing a lot, right? And Marco says,
Where did they get it all?
Jake? Huh?
Where did they get it all? Where did he get all of his pee?
Exactly.
Did he have to stop and like drink as a wolf?
That's the thing that Marco says.
They
what did
morph
you,
a
like-
wolf already filled.
Every time they morph the wolf, they have to like use the bathroom a lot. But Marco says something like, "What did you drink? A lot of Mountain Dew or something like that?" He says something like that, and then that got me thinking. Okay, so let's say Jake drinks a 2 liter of Mountain Dew.
I wonder.
And then he morphs into an animal.
Yeah, what if he does like a couple of rails of coke and then
Does the
the most skitsed out wolf?
does
Like
it
we're all
carry
running
over?
about 20 miles an hour. He's running 40 miles an hour nonstop, pissing on everything ahead of us,
Yeah, and then
running and pissing.
you got to wonder if that does the stuff in your stomach go to zero space too? Does it become kind of the antimatter, or does it just like does it stay in you? Who knows?
Yeah, like if you eat a huge meal before you morph and you're just stuffed and then you morph, are you stuffed as that animal? Or like you morph into an anaconda and you don't move?
Yeah. That's how anacondas eat though. They'll eat and then just sit there for like 3 days apparently.
Exactly, yeah.
That's kind of how they do things. There's also a line in here somewhere around page 60 where, as we both know, there is a future book coming up very soon where Tobias has a watch on his talon. Right? It hasn't happened yet technically.
I saw that earlier.
But then on page 60, he's like, even if you could wear a watch, you wouldn't want to. A wolf or a hawk with a watch looks slightly suspicious. So I think it's funny that he like knocks it there, and then we see, maybe coming up in a book soon where he actually has one.
Right.
They rethought that one, and then just a few pages later on 63, on page 63 on the second pressing or whatever, I forgot all about how
63.
Yeah, around page 63. What chapter is this? It's in chapter 11. Yes, and it's the part where they're. Like Tobias
Just
is
a
flying
little late.
around. He gets attracted to the female hawk. He's kind of distracted with her, and then all of a sudden he peeks in a truck, one of the Yurt controller's trucks, or human controller, and he sees that the Animorphs. Yeah, he's like morph. They're like 7 minutes past the 2-hour mark. 7 minutes
Supposedly.
past, and so he goes. He screams
Allegedly.
at them to morph, and then they start
For all you
morphing
Letterkenny
back.
fans.
And then they're like stuck halfway. This is one of the closest they've gotten to getting stuck in morph, especially so early on.
Outside of hymns, truly.
Yes. And then they describe how Rachel is like completely wolf still, but her paws are hands, and she's just like stuck there. And Tobias is like, that's like the worse than being stuck in Hawkomorph is being stuck in between morph,
I don't know. It kind of makes me think of like an Adult Swim like commercial or something, you know. Like you just see this wolf with like people hands and feet, instead of paws, just like walking around.
It's creepy, dude. It's creepy, and I think that's whenever they all start celebrating after they finally get to morph back, which is pretty terrifying. Tobias is like they're emerging as half human freaks of nature. They were living nightmares, and then they get out of the morph. They're also happy and joking, and that's what triggers Tobias. He says, suddenly, I desperately didn't want to be there.
Trigger
I felt
warning.
An awful, gaping black hole open up. Listen to this writing. This is interesting. So
I love it.
Tobias says, suddenly, I desperately didn't want to be there. I felt an awful, gaping black hole open up all around me. I was sick with the feeling of being trapped forever. He's like, I looked at my talons. They would never be feet again. Wing would never be an arm, etc. And that's when he just shoots off and is like that really like triggers his
he wants to run away
psychological
from it all.
break, and so then he goes, and at this point he's still just like a human hawk, kind of like he's sleeping in Jake's drawer, you know, like
he hasn't fully committed.
He eats like hamburger helper and shit like that.
So weird to think about. Like a hawk sitting there like holding on to a Tupperware trying to like pry the lid off with his beak.
So this is, and then we go into one of the first of two scenes in Rachel's room where it's like, you know, luckily she's the one he can go to. She has a picture of him in her side drawer, which is kind of strange. Like, do you think she had a crush on him before?
Yeah, I think she
really
already.
Like he was a nerd.
I think, well, because it makes it seem like, to a degree, Jake has been hanging out with him for some short period of time. He's obviously not like an old friend like Marco is, but they've been hanging around enough for Rachel to have seen him, noticed him, get familiar enough with him that she's developed a liking for him, and is. I want to know how she has the photo that he doesn't know about. Like, how did she end up getting a photo of him?
That's the weird part. She says she went over. It says she went over to her nightstand and opened the drawer. She rummaged for a minute. They came back to me. She was holding a small photograph. She turned it so I could see. It was me, the me I used to be. She said, it's not a great picture. In real life, you look better. But she says some cool stuff to him. She says, what counts is what is in your head and in your heart. A person isn't his body. A person isn't what's on the outside.
She was so ahead. She was so woke.
She was so woke. Yeah, right?
Body positive.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what's in your body. But isn't that nice when you're having an existential crisis, kind of like Tobias was throughout this book, to like talk to somebody who just knows just what to say. It's so
strong, I think, is what he was.
It's so nice to go to talk to somebody, to have somebody to go to. You know, thank God he has Rachel. Like these dynamics are appropriate for him. You know,
I agree. If he didn't have certain members there, he would probably have just flown off and committed fully. Yeah,
like he almost did when around chapter 14. When Rachel is going to the mall to do her gymnastics competition, right? Mm-hmm. And then what triggers the intensity of Tobias? Because he goes from like having this revelation of like, I could bust right into the gardens anytime I wanted. I could watch any football or baseball game. I could go to concerts if I wanted. He goes from being really happy, really relaxed, to basically seeing a rat scuffling around on the ground, swooping down. He eats the rat, and it's like the rush she describes here around page 85 when she's like, ecstasy, ecstatic. That's the only thing. That's the only word for hunting, because that's another thing of like the hawk's instincts taking.
Right, yeah. Something that he'll have to continuously battle or cope with in some degree, shape, or form for the rest of his life.
I'm glad he did, because you can't be a hawk eating cooked meat or even uncooked meat.
That's what I was curious about as well. I wonder, how did that treat his digestive system? Because a hawk is supposed to have raw meat. He's not supposed to have the cooked meat. How, like, was he having little hawk shits
instead of like, you know, like bird poop is always white.
Yeah,
it's like brown and
he's got some tan, like beige,
cyan. Isn't that a color? Cyan.
Yeah. So that'd be like a blue shit.
Andalite shit's probably blue. But then he's like,
right?
He looks down at his bloody talons and he just freaks out, and he's like, he has a mental break, and then he flies. He's like, and then like in his mental break, he's like, okay, the last thing that brought me pleasure was Rachel. I need to go talk to Rachel. And he knows Rachel's at the mall, and so he starts flying to the mall. And I had this little tidbit Okay, so like there's this scene on the second page of chapter 15 where Tobias is flying towards the mall where Rachel has her gymnastics demonstration or competition or whatever.
Yeah.
He's flying straight towards these doors of the mall, and he's like gonna run into it, and then it says a guy, dark hair, short, stepped to the door and he opened it so that Tobias wouldn't crack in it. Do you think that guy was Marco?
See, I always kind of wondered why did they give that much of a description about the guy and then never follow up? And I kind of got that impression because same thing, out of nowhere, guy throws ball.
And they describe even the guy who opened the door. And we know that Marco's going to be there.
Yeah.
This is a really great visual when it's like, when he's talking about how he's flying through the mall and there's colors and bright lights all around, like a high-speed kaleidoscope and all the stores going by. And it's funny to see the stores they list. The Gap. Where's the Gap now? Express.
Yeah.
The Body Shop, was that even a thing? Easy Spirit. Mrs. Fields, that's the cookie place, right? Mrs. Fields. And then as Tobias flies up to the thing, to the skylight, he actually falls into Rachel's arms for a while. And like you really see that Rachel like feels Tobias and she knows how much pain he's in.
Yeah.
And then as everyone is trying to claw the air to grab at him, somebody throws a shopping bag at Tobias and he starts flying straight up towards the skylight. And then who but Marco is the one who throws a baseball, which where did he get a baseball, by the way?
Yeah, where did he get a baseball? How long has he been playing that he's able to that accurately?
Super accurate, yeah. Right. He can throw, if you think about it, technically he's throwing faster than Tobias can fly. Straight up, although there's no thermals in the mall, and so he's kind of...
This is true, and he's already lost his original momentum by that point. He's already like banged off the glass once and fallen into Rachel.
Throughout this book, he's always flying as hard and as fast as he can. He just says it throughout the book, like my muscles were straining, and it took my hawk mind wanted to go rest in a meadow, but my human brain kept me going, and so. He goes up. It's another kind of play on the characters where Marco, the one who doesn't get along with Tobias the most, is actually the one who saves his life. And then we go into Tobias's long, slow dream where he's just out there drifting.
Yeah, he surrendered. Tobias, a boy whose face I could no longer remember, no longer existed.
Wow. So this is where he really lets it go, Yeah. He's like, it's only been a month, but it's like the psychological strain of this. I mean, let's be honest, Tobias wasn't doing super well before he was stuck in this body that isn't actually his. And so now he's dealing with even more of that crisis in his head, And what brings him out of it? What brings him out of that? Because I feel like he just... Because while he's in this, as he describes it, a long, slow dream... He flies and he sees that's what it is. He flies and he sees his hot girlfriend, and he's watching her, and she's about to hunt.
And the Hawk Bajir's down there fucking with the dude.
Yes. Then they see a human controller, and that's where he first describes him as like, then I saw a predator and prey. Yeah. He doesn't see a human and a Hawk Bajir at first.
No, yeah.
It's almost like he's in a morph trying to control it and like slowly coming back to human mind.
Exactly. And he's like, why do I recognize these noises? What is this familiarity in this sound? Oh, that's a human screaming for their life.
Yeah. And he's like, Hork-Bajir, that name sounds familiar. He's like, salad shooters.
It's not just a vole screaming for its life. It's a human.
But it's like his predator mind. He was so sunken deep into the predator mind that at first he didn't see that. What do you think happened to that human who was running from the Hork-Bajir that Tobias helped free? That needs a fanfic too.
Yeah, he did. He needed his own fanfic.
Because he communicated with him.
He did. And he got to... So now this guy is not only aware of the Yeerks, because he obviously had one in his head and he got free of it.
So do you think that's what it was?
I feel like that's exactly what it was.
I had the impression that the human was one of those campers that was out there, because we haven't even described yet. Of course, if you read the book, there's a huge Yeerk truck ship that is sucking up water from the lake and air from the atmosphere and then carrying it up to the mothership. And then there's one part in the book where Tobias sees two campers get chased off by controllers. So I always thought that guy who was running was like a camper or a fisherman or some kind of like wildlife enthusiast that they came across and are like now chasing him off.
He was almost like an ant there for a second, you would say, because he had no idea of self. He kind of like had to remember, oh yeah, me.
Who, Tobias?
Tobias, yeah.
Yeah. See, that's. I think it's similar to that too, because it's like being overtaken. What he did was he let the hawk mind take over.
Yeah.
And and you can do that.
The hawk
in Morph.
instincts.
Yeah. And you can do that in Morph, where you just kind of give in. The dog is a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Cassie did it with the dolphin there for a minute.
The dolphin. Yeah, they all did it with the dolphin. They get that's coming up. But anyway, so Tobias gets back, then he goes and he meets with the other Animorphs, and that's when they come up with this big mission. I like in these first few books how it is very formulaic. I may have said this already, but it's like the reconnaissance mission,
Yeah, maybe he wasn't a controller.
What, are you reading it right now?
Yeah, I'm reading
about the guy running. What does it say? Give us some info.
I got to after the fact when he's talking to the group and he's like, but now he knows about you. He knows about the Hork-Bajir. What's he going to do? Go tell people he was chased through the woods by an alien monster and rescued by a telepathic bird? Yeah, good point. It doesn't sound like he would have been a controller already.
Yeah, because if he was a controller, they wouldn't be talking. Well, I mean, they wouldn't know, but man, imagine that guy going home. It's like the lady who saw them morphing into the lobster. It's just like morphing into the lobster. They're really There's a lot in the early Animorphs of not just the formulaic formula where like at first there's the reconnaissance mission and then there's a new morph and then there's the big mission at the end where Visser 3 comes.
Right.
That's kind of what they're still establishing here. But there's also in these early books a lot of interacting with humans like Deal and Dan. The guy running through the woods, we find out something that Marco does in a couple of books where it's interacting with humans. It's like they're not super careful at first,
No, kind of testing those limitations there of just how uncareful it can be. How
so after
what's that word for not uncareful? For not careful?
For not careful, risky.
Risky, yeah. Just how
not
risky.
cautious, dangerous, Animorphs, one could say. So after Tobias is kamikaze, he goes and he has another talk with Rachel, which is another like really kind of heartfelt talk where Rachel's like telling him, you are human. Like you're not like these Yeerks. Because Tobias makes an interesting correlation between like he's just a guy stuck in a bird brain, and the Yeerks are just guys stuck
bird brain
in whatever their controllers are. And then Rachel's like, no, you are human. Like you're different. Like you didn't take this body and try to kill and dominate. This is like the way nature designed you to fall into this.
That reminds me of one of my original wonderings about this book. Yes. I wonder, did everything about Tobias's development, like his brain development, his emotional development, things like that, come to a screeching halt when he got stuck in that morph? Like, is he stuck with the mind of an adolescent for the rest of his days? Or do you think they continue to age while stuck in a morph if they get stuck? And do you think that morph will age with him?
I think that there is no direct human comparison, but the closest thing would be like a hermit out in the woods who FaceTimes like 3 people a couple times a week. So like a guy who is completely outside of society. He still has a close-knit group of friends that he talks to, but he can't really interact with them truly. Mm-hmm. So I think that Tobias's mind, as it is now, he's not going to learn more about math and science and probably news and shit like that, but having so much time throughout the day to just float in the air and think, I feel like his philosophical mind frame and like the way he looks at life and himself and like nature will expand greatly.
You'll be ignorant but happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but also like super wise,
Yeah.
I mean, man, there's something like very calming to think about just being away from everything.
Right.
Above everything. And just
literally.
Like just like doing just like not interacting with humans at all. For some reason, I don't know if I'm a psychopath or a sociopath, but like, that sounds kind of comforting to me. I don't know.
Right, yeah, to not have to interact with people for a while. Yeah.
But then the thing that kind of brings Tobias back.
We kind of got that wish here the last few months, didn't we?
Really did. That's what I'm saying. Tobias is the lockdown personified or hawk-onified, But there's a lot of moving parts in this final mission where, the Yeerks are coming down, they got big air scoops and big pumps to bring the water in. And then so what's their plan? They morph fish.
Right,
and their plan is to acquire fish, walk from the cave to the lake, morph the fish, and then get sucked up the tube.
Yeah, and I think they ended up having to have Tobias carry them.
Yes.
I don't remember that being. I can't remember if that was part of the original plan.
It wasn't, because I think Visser 3 showed up. Visser 3 shows up. Tobias goes back to the cave, and he's like,
"Whoop."
Yeah, like, stay in the cave, guys, stay in the cave. And so then they start to morph to fish, and it's funny how he describes it. He's like, Cassie is the best at morphing, but not so much for a fish. You know, and then they describe
some of them she just still can't make look pretty.
Yeah. And they describe, like, you know, we felt like we were going to get eaten. We just pictured ourselves on a plate with a slice of lemon and tartar sauce.
You mean she didn't look like a little mermaid?
But, like, that's what ends up happening. There's
Come on, you even wrote for Disney. That was a missed opportunity, K.A.
I know, right? Maybe later as they get better at morphing. So the plan goes from walk to the lake and get in to morph into a fish in a cave, and then have Tobias carry each one of you out of the cave. And the last 2 times he leaves the cave,
not even 2 at a time, 1 by 1.
that wouldn't make sense to go 2 at a time. I think he just couldn't carry that much weight.
That, and I think they were also kind of thinking, well, what are the odds that a hawk's going to be flying around with 2 fish in its talons, like, repeatedly?
It's pretty. I think that they're being a little cocky here, but, you know, they're still figuring out, like, how to do all this stuff, you know, and.
Like, why couldn't they morph into their bird morphs, fly up a mile, demorph, and then remorph into a fish on the way down? Maybe they were afraid they were going to hit terminal velocity and splash before they got fully morphed.
Well, thank God they have Tobias there to transfer them back and forth. The Animorphs get sucked up into the truck ship. And this whole, like, final scene where she's describing Tobias, like, flying on the water surface with the truck ship right above him, and he's like, I barely had any room to maneuver up and down.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And then he, like, you know, calls an audible by being under the ship instead of on top. And then here comes Visser 3 in the blade ship, and then there's this whole big fiery finale where Tobias, like, breaks
Outsmarts
his
the
talons, of the Taxons, and then grabs the Draken beam and shoots it into the thing. How far do you think those beams shoot? Because it says it sliced through the truck ship like butter.
That was another question that I had, was like, what is the... does it become momentarily like a giant lightsaber? Like, how does that work?
I think it's like a pew, and it shoots one laser beam that just keeps going. I don't know what it stops, but then, like, when it kills somebody, it stops in their body, right? Like, it doesn't just keep going through.
Seems like I don't know. I guess it depends on how long you hold the trigger.
Yeah.
Does it depend? Because it seems like it's variable depending on what it hits. Because, like you see with these metallic or inanimate objects, supposedly non-living entities, it seems to, like, slice straight through, lands all the way.
The metal of an alien ship.
Yeah. Whereas you would imagine somehow it might take, like you see with even a torch or something, it's going to take a second or 2 before it fully penetrates through, melts all the way past.
Who came up with that technology? Was it the Yeerks? Did they come up with the Draken beam?
Dragon beams?
Do you think they, like, bought it from...
I think that's another borrowed, I think, everything technically beyond whatever they were getting out of the original home world situation is borrowed technology.
Filthy, disgusting slugs.
Were it not for Zero, who knows?
Yeah. But then the...
Who?
Zero? We'll find out. But then the truck ship crashes, and that's a huge hit against the Yeerks, I feel like. I was like, yes. Like, that definitely made an impact on it. And Tobias finds his relief, his psychological relief in the fulfillment of purpose. So now Tobias feels purposeful. He basically single-handedly took down the Yeerk ship. He saved his friends' lives. His friends who, you know, Rachel was reaching out to him saying, like, we're stuck here. We don't know what to do. We're going to go into battle morphs and just go down fighting. And Tobias is like, Rachel, I never told you. And she's like, you don't have to tell me. You know, but, like, he saved his friends. He saved the human he loves. And now he feels purpose again, you know? Like, he gets purpose back from fulfilling the mission and helping his friends win the battle. And he says, be happy for me and for all who fly free, as the last line of the book. I love this book, dude. I love this book. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we've read this book twice. I read it twice, dude. And, like, It's just I don't know. I can relate to it right now. I guess just the whole like lone hawk, struggling with identity or struggling with your own brain and feeling like there's a predator in there somehow. It's just like it's cool, man. It's this book goes deep. I feel like deeper than a lot of the others.
I love how as upset and everything as they get with Visser 3, and as much as he even describes wanting to yell at him and be like, hey, you dumbass, I'm not an Andalite.
Yeah.
I'm a human. They still are always able to hold that back and like never actually give it away. Because I think they kind of understand already that even if they were to say something that should be completely neutral and wouldn't give away that they were human, somehow the way that they deliver it will let Visser 3 know, like, wait a second.
Oh, he would know too. Yeah, he would. It would at least like give them something. It would give Visser 3 some kind of suspicion, and as much as they interact with him, they don't want to do that too much, But this is the third book in the series on this mission that we have to go through every book in the series. I recently got what was it? Hork-Bajir Chronicles in the mail, Visser, and then also the Andalite Chronicles. And I already have Megamorphs. So we're coming up on. We're gonna do some more live episodes coming up, guys.
I can't wait to see the graphic novel version of this. I want to see how he draws the tank ship.
Yeah.
I want to see how he does those parmorphs that they get stuck in for a moment when they're trying to come back out of the wolf.
That'd be cool. Chris Grine, our graphic novel hero, Animorphs main guy right now. He's like getting a lot of praise, for his graphic novel. It's really cool. I actually let my buddy Alex borrow it, and I got to get it back now because I want to read it again. But this is cool, man. We're on a mission here, just like the Andalites, just like the Animorphs as well, and that's good. So tune in next week. Once again, only Andy.
Did we cover what all morphs were made in this?
Let's dig the morphs. Let's check out these morphs. Good call, Max. Good call. We got to get that towards the end. Here we go. The morphs acquired this book. Jake has an alpha male wolf and a trout. All the others have wolf and trout, female wolves and trout, which I guess they're all the same trout, right?
Yeah, I think they are, yeah.
And Rachel used her African elephant morph at the very beginning. It just like that's not, gaining a lot of attention, like stomping through a parking lot with your African elephant morph.
And their attempt at fishing reminded me of my first few attempts at fishing before I got an actual pole.
Wikipedia has an interesting tidbit here. It says, this is the first book where the cover morph does not depict a morph acquired or used in the book. Which is interesting because they did use, I guess, just to go in the formula of the rest of the books, they used the human morphing to the hawk, although he's stuck in hawk morph.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it made sense, though, because it's supposed to focus on the morph that narrator takes on usually.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember now what they do for Tobias's covers in the future, but I think there's a specific event that alters certain aspects of their world that dictates what can happen there. So, without giving too much info away, I think it was appropriate for them to give him the hawk morph here.
Yeah,
because it's like the other ones. It's the only morph that he can do, and it's the one that he's technically doing for the
in a way
for the book.
And in a way, he did turn into the hawk.
Yeah,
he turned into the hawk this book
he
psychologically.
Did.
I mean, he hunts like a hawk.
He full on
lives like
morphed.
a hawk. He fell in love with a hawk.
He did.
It's like he's
and then
there.
Watched her die.
Yes, tragically.
God,
and I thought it was
crazy.
Sweet how Rachel and Cassie wanted to go back and find that hawk's body and actually bury it.
Yeah, it's like, are you kidding me? No, the thing's ripped apart by now.
Yeah. Tobias is like, nah, I know how nature works.
Love how grim and real they get sometimes with some.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's raw, man. But I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. This book went deep. The next book is a lot of fun too. So check it out, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Subscribe on YouTube, like and subscribe and follow on Instagram. I'm not very good at promo, but do all the stuff, guys. If you like what we're doing,
slap like now.
Check out our Instagram page where we post like our personal collections. We post our personal collections. We post every time an episode comes out, and come comment on our stuff. We got a lot of people kind of following us now. Got a guy who's the Animorphs collector that we talked about on the live stream.
Yeah.
Our fan from the Philippines and different things like that. So this is a lot of fun, guys. We're all here for the Animorphs.
Reaching around the world.
That's right. That's right. We got to save this thing. The Andalites are coming, but until then,
we fight.